I'm Mr. B, and this is how to factor trinomials. So this big thing on top is called a trinomial. Step 1 is always going to be set it equal to 0. Step 2, I need to figure out what goes in these parentheses. To figure out what goes in the parentheses, right? The first one is what multiplies to x squared. That's just going to be x times x. X times x gives me x squared. The next thing is I have to think of two numbers that multiply to 8, but also add to 6. And let's say I'm not sure about those. I go to the side over here, I list the factors of 8. What are the factors of 8? It could be 1 and 8, or it can be 2 and 4. Which combination of those add to 6, 2 and 4? So it's going to be positive 2, positive 4. That's how I factor it. If your teacher also asks for the x-intercepts, I now need to solve this. To solve this, I need to figure out when either this or this equals 0. So when does x plus 2 equal 0, or when does x plus 4 equal 0? Because if one of them is 0, right? If this in red is 0, I don't care about anything else. 0 multiplied with anything is just 0. Same thing here. This one in blue is 0. I don't care what anything else is. This whole thing is 0 because 0 times anything is 0. So I can solve this. Minus 2 on both sides, minus 2 on both sides, and I see that x is negative 2. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Same thing here. I can solve this by subtracting 4. Subtracting 4, x equals negative 4. Because negative 4 plus 4 equals 0. This step here are my factors. These are my x-intercepts. It depends what's being asked for. That's level 1. I got one more level 1 for you. Same exact thing. Step 1, always set it equal to 0. Step 2, I gotta figure out what multiplies to 20 adds to 12. Again, it's gonna be x and x, because in the beginning I have an x squared there. What multiplies to 20 adds to 12. If I'm not sure of it, I go over to the side here, and I put the factors of 20. What are the factors of 20 that I know? 1, 20, 2, 10, 4, and 5. And I think, do any combination of those add to 12? Yes, they do. 2 and 10. X plus 2, x plus 10. Those are my factors. If they just ask for the factors, I'm done there. If they want the x-intercepts, I now have to set these equal to 0 and figure out what value of x makes either one of them equal to 0. What number when I add 2 to it is 0, or I can just solve this. X is negative 2. Same thing with this here. X plus 10 equals 0, minus 10 from both sides. X equals negative 10. Nice. Level 1, done. Not too crazy. Multiply here, add there. Level 2. Same exact thing. Start setting equal to 0. 0 equals, and I have to figure out what goes in my parentheses. Again, multiply it to x squared, x times x. Now I need to multiply to a positive 10 and to a negative 7. Very important, that's a negative 7. Okay. So instantly I'm thinking, how do I multiply to a positive but add to a negative? Well, in order to multiply to a positive, they're either both going to be positive or both going to be negative, right? But if I make them both positive, I'm never going to add to a negative, which means they must be both negative. I'm going to say that again. Because I need to multiply to a positive, they can either be two positives or two negatives. But since it has to add to a negative, two positives won't equal a negative. Two negatives added together give me a negative. So I'm stuck with two negatives. What two numbers multiply to 10 but also add to a negative 7? I go to my side here, I put the factors of 10. The factors of 10 are 1 and 10, and 2 and 5. But remember, they're both going to be negative. We already learned that. So it's negative 1 and negative 10, and negative 2 and negative 5. And those all still multiply to positive 10. Which combination of those adds to negative 7? Negative 1 and negative 10 give me negative 11. Negative 2 and negative 5 are my winners. They give me negative 7. Negative 2, negative 5. If they want the factors, I'm done there. If they want the x-intercepts, I have to solve when is this in red 0, when is this in blue 0. Set them both equal to 0. I can either solve it, or I can see right away what number when I subtract 2 from it is going to be 0. That's just going to be 2. But if you want to see it written out, add 2 to both sides. Same thing here, add 5 to both sides, or x equals 5. Cool. That's level 2. I got one more level 2 for you. Same exact thing. Step 1, set equal to 0. I got to figure out what multiplies to a negative 16 adds to a negative 6. Okay. Sorry, this is level 3 if I didn't say so. This is level 3. Right to level 3. In order to get to x squared, I'm going to be x and x. That's no big deal. I have to multiply to negative 16, add to a negative 6. So, off the jump, I'm thinking, how do I multiply to a negative number? In order to multiply to a negative number, I must have one positive and one negative. That's how I multiply to a negative number. Now, I put the factors of 16. What are the factors of 16? 1, 16, 2, 8, 4, 4. Which combination of that, when I make one of them positive and one of them negative, will give me a negative 6? Well, I know my answer is going to stay negative, which means the bigger number is going to be negative. Because when you're adding, you keep the sign of the bigger number. The bigger number must be negative here. So, positive 1 and negative 16, does that give me negative 6? No. 2 and negative 8, does that give me negative 6? Yes. 4 and negative 4 doesn't work. So I said positive 2, negative 8. If I want the factors, I'm done there. But if I want the x-intercepts, I gotta keep going. X plus 2 equals 0, x minus 8 equals 0. When does each of those factors equal 0? When does x plus 2 equal 0? When x is negative 2. When does x minus 8 equal 0? When x is 8. Okay. Important part there was I saw I had a negative in the end, which means I must have one positive, one negative. And in order to add to a negative, the bigger one must be negative. And I kind of just pieced together the puzzle from there. Another one, level 3 here. Same things first. Set equal to 0, how I always start. I need two sets of parentheses that multiply to negative 40, add to 6. It's going to be x and x to get x squared. How do I multiply to 40, negative 40, add to 6? I see I'm multiplying to a negative 40. How do I get to a negative number? That's one positive, one negative with multiplying. Then I need to list out the factors of 40 as best as I can. 1, 40, 2, 20. 3 doesn't go in. 4, 10, 5, 8. Those are my factors of 40. Now, I know that I'm going to have a positive number when I add. So I know the bigger number needs to be positive, also known as the smaller number is going to be negative. I need to find some kind of combo that adds to 6. Negative 1 and 40 do not add to 6. Negative 2 and 20 do not add to 6. Negative 4 and 10, winner. Negative 5 and 8 would not work. Negative 4, positive 10. Set both equal to 0. X plus 10 equals 0. X minus 4 equals 0. I subtract 10, I subtract 10. X equals negative 10. Add 4, x equals 4. These are my two x-intercepts, and that is how you factor. To check any of your answers, you can take this factored form, right? I'm going to take this factored form and go over here. X plus 10, x minus 4. And I can either double distribute or box method. I'm going to double distribute because that's the one that I like better. X plus x, x times x squared. X times negative 4 is negative 4x. 10 times x is positive 10x. 10 times negative 4 is negative 40. I can combine my two like terms in the middle. X squared plus 6x minus 40, which is exactly what I started with, so I must have factored correctly. Hope that made sense. You can check any of them doing the exact same method.